Considering I've covered many aspects of similar games, mainly Journey, I felt a full review wasn't really necessary, so instead these are my thoughts on Bound. It's an art style video game that, as far as I'm aware, tells the story of a pregnant woman who visits the beach and whilst she's there recalls this makeshift story of a princess whose kingdom is under attack by a huge monster. Developed by Santa Monica Studios, the same devs behind Journey, the art style was a cross between Mirror's Edge and the general gameplay of the game Tearaway Unfolded for the PlayStation Vita and PlayStation 4. The idea of a kingdom forming and deteriorating, which, depending on your route, takes either a non-linear or linear route, depending on your story, because it has replayability. I have to say, the surrealist elements of geographical landscapes and non-specific enemies makes for a thrilling time, as you'll probably spend most of your hours gawking at the scenery. I know I did. Okay, without spoiling the game too much, the story, although relatively ambiguous, it does cover the overall spectrum of separation, from family as well as oneself. The more of the game you play, the more the darker aspects rear their ugly head, as you play through these broken memory sequences that can be found in each level by finding a specific memory shard. Memory shards are basically green balls of geometric sadness that recall the incidents of her childhood, including anger and arguments that ultimately led to the family's end. The overall character of the princess, as far as I can configure, is like this metaphysical manifestation of childhood innocence, with her mother the queen struggling to keep the kingdom intact, and constantly keeps blaming the princess for the ensuing chaos. She talks about, the Queen talks about seeds of evil, and how everyone is born with these seeds and they don't know when they'll be triggered, and she's tired of her kingdom. And when you splice it in with the real-life problems that the woman undergoes in these flashback sequences, it's easy to see the comparison. I'll slightly cover the trophies. This is something kind of interesting about this game. It has quite a few. It included that fudge-coated Mega Super MacGuffin known as the Platinum. I don't know why I called it that, to be honest. Personally, I love the game for what it does, as it's kind of a surreal journey into reality. I love Santa Monica Studios, especially when they work on art-styled video games like this and Journey. Games that they don't really need dialogue as such, and any dialogue that is in the game is usually a sort of code or an understanding. Like in Journey, you had the symbols, you spoke in these kind of cryptic symbols that meant something, and it was up to you to determine what they could be. As well as in Bound, where the only voice you hear, especially from the princess or in the background during these memory sequences, is these like hushed overtones, these like muffled and distorted sounds, which is what you would hear as a child. When you try to recall a memory, you don't necessarily remember the words that were used, but you'll mostly remember the understanding. And the kind of muffled echoes of the past, and I absolutely love Bound for doing that. I'm a huge fan of this game. I would highly recommend it to fans of art style video games, and if you haven't played this, then I don't know what. If you don't want to play it after this video, I don't know what to tell you. But hopefully you guys have enjoyed. I've been Heracross Gaming, and I'll see you guys soon.